Well, the week after the Trump election victory has seen risk assets skyrocket with Bitcoin and stocks hitting new all-time highs. Precious metals, though gold and silver, fell following Trump's election victory. So, what happened and what's next for commodities and industrial demand for industrial metals? We'll talk about this theme with the next guest, Gary Thompson. He is the CEO of Silver 47, brand new project. Very interesting deposit. We'll talk about that. Thank you very much for joining the show, Gary. Good to see you.
Yeah, great to see you. Thanks for having me, David.
Congrats on the listing, Silver 47, brand new listed company on the TSXV. So we'll talk a little bit more about your project towards the end of the interview. But silver has not been doing well over the past week and a half. Silver and gold both fell as the dollar surged. So the dollar has been rising for a variety of reasons. The market believes that the dollar will be stronger under a Trump presidency, but that leaves room for interpretation as to what the metals are going to do. How do you see this recent fall from its highs in both gold and silver? What's going on here?
Yeah, certainly challenging this week. We saw a pretty good run up to the election for sure, and yeah, I think it was could have gone either way. I think, but from my perspective, I see this as just a short term, whether it's profit taking or adjustment to the new U.S. administration coming in. But I think the fundamentals for metals and the critical metals that the Western and the world, for that matter, need to operate our civilization, that hasn't gone away. We're still going to need all of these metals in great demand as civilization grows and especially as we try to electrify our industries. And so I don't like it. Certainly was more fun when when things are rallying, but I think longer term, I think we're in good shape.
Yeah, silver's down about 11, 12% from its highs, um, which was end of October. Now, when you talk about the fundamentals for these metals, what are these fundamentals, Gary? What are these drivers of demand for industrial metals? And I do bring up industrial metals because I understand that silver has industrial properties as well as monetary properties. We'll talk about both, but industrial for now. What are these drivers going forward?
Well, I mean, a big push obviously is with electrification, has put the sort of sights on the need for copper, silver, gold. If you look at the electrical demand, I mean, silver really is the number one. All other metals are compared to silver and ranked against silver when it comes to electrical conductivity. So electrical conductivity is the amount of electricity you can move through the wires. So think of trying to have a quick electrical signal, whether it's electronics, any industrial complex. You've seen a big rise in demand from solar. Everybody knows that lots of silver goes into solar, but I think people aren't really thinking about things like the military complex, the amount of silver that goes into military electronics and hardware and space technology. There's just a myriad of uses for these metals, and that's not going away. You're seeing a lot of military being developed both in the U.S. and around the world, in China and Russia. While there's a short-term price correction on these metals, I think all these countries want and need more metals, and whether it's transmission of electricity, electronics. I mean, there's just a whole list of demands, and I think as we want to electrify our civilization, if you will, the industrial complex is going to continue to grow, and that demand requires more metals out of the ground. And we've seen the challenges with the supply chain, and we're starting to recognize that the Western world needs a lot more control over those metals, and well, we're going to have to find them and get them out of the ground and deliver them ourselves.
Do you think that the U.S. and Canada face perhaps national security challenges if not all the silver and other critical minerals are mined in North America?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's been a challenge just in the Western democracies in general for permitting these projects, and we've somehow allowed to export, the refinement of these metals to other countries. And I think it's time to bring those home. And we're starting to see when countries like China cut off the supply of these critical minerals, well, where are you going to get them from if they're producing 70, 80% or most of those minerals? So that is a concern, I think, for the West, and we need to continue to develop these resources in our backyard, like Canada and the US.
I've been hearing and reading that silver has been running and will probably continue to run a deficit, which is to say that demand is not going to keep up, or sorry, the other way around, supply is not going to keep up with the rising demand. Now, this deficit has been recorded as an all-time high in 2023 by the Silver Institute. Do you see this continuing?
Yeah, it kind of looks that way. You can't just flip a switch to get these metals out of the ground. It's a process for exploration, development, advancement, permitting. All those things take time and money. So yes, I think that deficit's going to grow. And again, this price correction. I think it's just a short-term blip. I think that deficit for silver will continue to grow. I mean, 250 million ounces of silver. You can't just pull that together in a short term. So there's certainly some interesting days ahead, and I think it just means higher metal prices ultimately.
Well, in 2011, we had silver reach nearly $50 an ounce. That was the last time it spiked to that level, and it's been climbing ever since 2020, but nowhere near as high as 2011 levels. What needs to happen to get the market back to that level again?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm the more I look at the demands on the industrial side for silver, I'm starting to move into the triple digit silver camp. When you first heard people talking about it, you thought, well, that's a bit crazy. I mean, $50 would be good to get to, which was the all-time previous high. But I'm starting to think more and more along the lines of triple digit. What's it going to take to get it there? I just think that demand, that increased deficit, the demand will drive it higher ultimately. And I think I guess you can only manage the price for so long until it starts ripping.
Triple digit means $100 and above. So we're currently at $30 an ounce. That's 3.5 times current price. Consider that in 2020, the price was about $14, 14.50 an ounce. So that's roughly a 100% increase over the last 4 years. So 100% increase in 4 years, maybe another 100% increase over the next 3, 4 years, and then doubling from that. So over the next 10 years, we're looking at triple digit silver. Does that timeline make sense to you?
Yeah, I think so. And if you look at the big run that gold had from 2000 to 2011, it took a decade to go from 250 to 1900. It's a huge move. So it's not unrealistic to think that we could see that. It's going to take time. There's a lot of market actions I need to factor in. But yeah, I think a decade is a good kind of window to look at, and
What
I wouldn't be surprised.
what if Trump's tariffs slow down global trade, meaning people trade less with each other on, especially on um, things like cars, electronic. There's already tariffs on Chinese cars, as you know. The Chinese might slap tariffs on American cars more. So if Trump doubles down on these tariffs, so potentially economists are calling for a slowdown in global trade. Wouldn't this put a slowdown in demand for industrial metals and commodities?
Yeah, I think that could have an effect on in the short term on demand, how those market forces move around. But I think ultimately that the civilization needs to grow, and we're going to need those metals from somewhere eventually. So yeah, it may cause a bit of a disruption in the short term, and sort of protectionism is not good for global trade for sure. But again, in the long term, we have to look at these mine development projects. It takes such a long time to discover and develop a mine anyways. So if you take a long-term view on resource development, I don't really see that in the long term having that much effect. We're still going to need them.
The gold silver ratio has been widening over the last couple of years. What's an appropriate gold silver ratio for you? You think a fair
Well, I just look
value?
at the average. I think these 80-90 gold silver ratio is inflated. I think, long-term average is about 50, is more reasonable, which would obviously boost silver dramatically from where it is. We know that the actual nature's ratio is more like 15 to 1, but I think in that 30, 40, 50 range would certainly be more appropriate.
What's a catalyst for silver to really spike up to the upside under Trump? We talked about the downside risks, but is there anything that the Trump administration may do that they've kind of announced so far that could really be a boost to silver, do you think?
Well, I think putting silver in the critical mineral list would certainly help because it is a critical mineral. Again, it's on top of the food chain when it comes to electrical conductivity. So if you want electrification, silver should be the top of the list. And so I think moving it into that critical mineral category may provide some more, incentives for companies to go out and find more silver. And I think there's lots of silver to be found, but you've got to go do the work.
Okay, so I'm looking at the World Silver Survey from the Silver Institute. This is their 2024 report. The longer term outlook for silver, it says that the silver mine production looks set to rise from 2025, chiefly as projects come online, taking the global total to its highest level since 2016. Do you agree with that assessment that mine production is going to increase in the next couple of years overall?
Yeah, I think incrementally increase. I think the demand will likely outstrip supply. So that's gonna change that.
Well, what's the I have heard this many times from the people in the mining industry, experts in the mining industry, and executives like yourself. What's the bottleneck here? Why can't supply keep up with demand?
Well, it's I guess political will for the most part. It takes way too long to get these projects approved and permitted. I think under one thing that I do see encouraging under the new Trump administration is he wants to get things built, get things done, get things moving. So I think that's a positive for our industry. Maybe other Western nations could take note of that and start to cut the red tape. Here in Canada, we got more red tape than we know what to do with. So trying to get things moving to unlock that potential. That's really the bottom line. I think we can make these things happen, and it just takes some will and yeah, cut the bureaucracy, cut the red tape, and let's get at it.
What's the upside here for me as an investor?
Well, look at the upside is that the market has been rather challenged. So you're coming in at an entry point when the market's a bit challenged. I think that we're heading in for much higher prices, and those valuations haven't been reflected in the equities. So yeah, you need some patience in this space, unfortunately. But along the way, you can make money on discovery stories as we see these price movements and action in the market. So there's lots of up and downs along the way. I think you can, as an investor, can make money along the way.
Well, the silver price, as you know, is much higher than it was a couple of years ago, like we talked about. Is it different now than versus 4 or 5 years ago to raise money for a new project or to list a project? Are there more projects coming online now than a couple of years ago? What's the landscape now, basically?
Well, I would say it's improved. Certainly has over the last year, even with this dramatic move higher. We're certainly seeing some more interest coming into the space, but it's slow, right? Especially for the explorer codes and the junior companies. There's obviously the majors are making a lot of money these days with the margins are quite high. And I think that's starting to trickle in, and certainly people are starting to do some work and look at the junior name. So it's coming. It's certainly better than it was even a year ago.
Okay, so Silver 47, how long has this been in development? How long have you been involved with this project? Tell us a bit more about this project.
Yeah, so I founded the company a couple of years ago. We got introduced to the Red Mountain project about a year ago.
Red Mountain is in Alaska, just to
In
clarify.
Alaska, it's
Okay.
south central Alaska. It's considered a VMS, a volcanogenic massive sulfide. It's a polymetallic. It's silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc. It's zinc forward. I mean, these VMSs are typically base metal rich, but the reason we got involved and got interested in the project, the company that had it before us um, kind of got into some financial trouble, and they were basically on verge of bankruptcy. So we picked it up for, like I say, a song and a dance. So we got a good asset that for a reasonably low price and mostly stock we paid. And so basically we published a 43101 resource that's coming in at 100 and just about 170 million silver equivalent ounces at combined silver equivalent grade of 336. So if you put that into context of a sort of a gold equivalent, just for simplicity, that's like 2 million ounces of gold at 4 grams. So quite high grade. It is polymetallic. So I think polymetallics are underappreciated in the market because we do see volatility in the commodity prices. And when you've got multiple commodities, you can actually normalize your production profile by absorbing those differences in I guess in prices. So
Okay, so polymetallic meaning several metals. What are these other minerals that the ores contain?
yeah, so silver, gold, zinc, lead, copper, and there's some other like antimony, a few other critical minerals in there that we're discounting at this point. But the main focus for us is really to flush out the silver and gold in the system. There are some impressive silver and gold drilling intercepts, and it's a big property, a 60-kilometer trend. So
Yeah.
we've got a true district scale project. It's about 100 kilometers south of Fairbanks, Alaska. And so our goal is to advance this rapidly towards, grow the resource and advance it towards a development decision sooner than later.
Thinking that the mine output will eventually be a mix between gold and silver, or will it be purely silver that you're focusing on?
Yeah, again, it's going to be all the metals. It'll be silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc. That's the commodity base plus some other critical minerals. But you basically build a concentrate. These are massive sulfide layers, so you get these horizons of metal. Basically, massive sulfide is almost all metal, and so you take those metals and you make a concentrate, and you let the refiners split them out. But whether you make a zinc con or a copper con, it's yet to be determined how we're going to actually break that apart. But the point is that we've got a group of metals that we can monetize.
According to your website, the inferred mineral resource estimate is roughly around 15.6 million tons, um, containing roughly 168.6 million ounces of silver, equivalent to 2 million ounces of gold. So gold is a small fraction of the total silver inferred resource estimate,
Yeah,
according.
yeah. If you break it down, it's about 50% actually zinc. So if you look at that on a zinc equivalent basis, it's a million tons of zinc equivalent. So half of the resource is actually in zinc. So 500,000 tons of zinc and about 36 million ounces of silver and about 200,000 ounces of gold. And then the balance is lead and copper. So
And
when you,
what?
sorry, go
Okay. Yeah, and what was wondering what the major challenges have been so far for working on this Red Mountain project.
ahead. Well, so far we've had one short season of drilling it. So this will be, I guess, 2025 will be our first campaign of actually getting in there and really unlocking the potential. So it's a new asset for us. There was the previous operators, and there's a list of companies that was originally a 1975 discovery. So there's been numerous operators in here over those since then. Something like $30 million has been spent to date by previous operators. So we're just getting on it. It's Silver 47's new asset, and so we're going to go and do a lot of drilling to grow that resource as quickly as we can.
Well, how were you introduced or exposed to this resource in the first place?
Yeah, so it came through one of the Crescat guys, Dr. Quinton Henning, was involved with the company, the predecessor company called White Rock Minerals, was an Australia listed company. So Crescat was an investor of White Rock, and they basically sunk themselves on a gold project in Australia and weren't able to really maintain this Alaskan project focus. So we got introduced to it. and here we are.
Give us a sense of your professional background before you were involved with Silver 47.
Yeah, so well, I'm a geologist by training, entrepreneur, and I look at I'm always looking at project opportunities all the time and looking for those unloved assets that maybe are underappreciated, underrecognized, and just yeah, look for the opportunities. So this would be my fourth public company. So I'm involved with a company called Brixton Metals, which I founded in 2010. Prior to that, I was involved in some geothermal power, a company called Sierra Geothermal Power, which was sold to a competitor, Ram Power, in 2010, and spent about 5 years in oil and gas. So diverse background in mineral exploration, oil and gas, and renewable energy.
When you say unloved, are you referring to all of Silver, or specifically the Red Mountain project?
No, just in general. I mean, I guess, what I do basically is look for projects that are, or yeah, unloved, unappreciated, unrecognized for their potential, and you kind of look for those. Somebody said the other day, which I thought was right, looking for that acorn
Yeah.
that could be an oak tree.
What's your long-term vision for Red Mountain? Ultimately, where do you see this project headed?
Yeah, so I mean, ultimately, would like to see this thing into production and generating cash flow and producing silver, gold, copper, lead, zinc.
And
Um,
will Silver 47 be doing that production?
yeah, I don't see why not.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we set out an exploration target. So right now, the resource is 15.6 million tons. So we've set ourselves a lofty goal of getting to 500 million silver equivalent ounces on the books. So we need to grow this thing a couple, three times from where it is. So that's going to be the goal, is getting to that threshold. What is that milestone we need to make that development decision? And I don't think quite here, we're not quite there yet from the resource, but we have visibility on growth here, and I think that's going to be our job, is to unlock that potential by growing the resource to a point where you've got enough meat on the bones where you can make economics and make this thing a development story.
Well, what's the next step for you? You've listed
Um,
now. What's next?
Yeah, well, get out and tell the story, because I think a lot of people aren't aware of the Red Mountain asset, and certainly a new story like Silver 47 just hitting the market. Get out and tell the story, make sure people are aware of the opportunity, and yeah, basically get ready to for next season to aggressively drill this project off.
Are you thinking of expanding your portfolio in the future?
Look, I think we have a great asset in front of us. We do have a couple of other earlier stage projects, but again, we're always looking. Right now, I think we have our hands full, but you never want to stop looking, because you never know what could show up that could perhaps put it in front of this, or one of the things that we are interested in is an opportunity that would give us that year-round news flow.
Yeah.
So we are in Alaska, so you can work there for 5, 6 months of the year. So what do you do for the rest of the 6 months? So that's one thing that would be of interest to us, is an asset that we could work on the off season to Alaska, just to balance out the news flow for us.
Very good. And final question. You've worked, in several places, different jurisdictions. How would you rate Alaska as a jurisdiction versus some of the other places that you've worked in terms of challenges and opportunities?
Yeah, I think Alaska is actually a great place to work. I've done some work there a few times, a few different projects I worked on there, and just compared to other jurisdictions. I mean, it has its challenges because of the infrastructure, I would say, just because it's a big area with not a lot of people and roads and infrastructure. But from a mineral endowment and mining opportunity, it's pretty hard to beat. We have state managed lands that we work. Our claims are held in the state of Alaska, that are actually managed by the state. So we have strong support for mine development there. So I think it's one of the top jurisdictions that should be looked at.
Well, clearly, I mean, you've looked at other projects before you decided to go all in on Red Mountain. Have you evaluated the pros and cons of Red Mountain versus some of the other projects you looked at, and ultimately, why did you decide on focusing on this area?
Well, I think a lot of it just came to us from the opportunity. We found the opportunity that was a good base resource, and the price was right, and the jurisdiction's favorable. So it's a combination of those things that tick the boxes for us to go all in. And I think it's yeah, we're pretty excited to get going on this thing and advancing it along.
One of the slides you sent me here, I'll put it on the screen, shows the market capitalization of Silver 47, the size of the resources versus some of its peers. Walk us through what we're looking at right now and how this fits into the broader mining landscape here.
Yeah, so we took a select representative peer group to just kind of benchmark ourselves out, to the market and to our peers. And so if you take the market cap divided by the silver equivalent ounces, so these are resource ounces defined in the ground, and if you take that market cap over the resource numbers, it gives silver 47 something like 24 cents of valuation of silver ounces in the ground on an equivalent basis. And of course, US dollars like more like 17 cents. So if we just look at that, it's an easy way to value how much is your silver worth in the ground and on an equivalent basis. And so we've done that with this peer, and it just shows that we're on the low end of the curve, and you could probably take up all the silver companies and you'd have a different mix along the way. But I think the point of this slide is to show that coming out at 40 million market cap, even though we're coming out at 80 cents, it's still a low valuation based on the resource and based on the market cap.
How would you rank relative to your peers in terms of the grade level and the concentration of the ores?
Yeah, actually would be another good slide to look at that. I would say there's a good mix there. On the equivalent basis, I would say we have quite high grades of 336 grams per ton silver equivalent. So those other metals are certainly adding to our potential margins here and that equivalent value. So I would say we're on the higher grade end of the curve as well. So probably middle of the pack if you were to split the difference from a grade perspective. I'd say we're in the middle and the upper quartile of those grade.
Okay, good. Well, thank you very much for sharing your story. Where can we learn more about Silver 47?
Yeah, have a look at our website, silver47.ca.
We'll put the link down below. I believe 47 is a reference also to the element number of silver.
Yeah, 47 is the atomic number for silver. That's correct.
Okay, I'm surprised someone hasn't taken that name yet, but good call on the naming convention. Props to your marketing team, or maybe that was you that came up with that.
Yeah,
But thank you very much for sharing the story. We'll put the link down below, and thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe.